Welcome to my hardcore world. Today we're gonna be building a giant underground base that transforms my spawn from a plains biome to this that spans over 100 blocks in diameter, as well as being over 60 blocks deep from top to bottom. This means that I have to dig about 400,000 blocks. Now in order to accomplish this, I'll need to build an enderman farm, an iron farm, and fight the wither so I can get a fully powered beacon. So as you can see, there's a lot to do, so let's get started. Now in order to get all this done, we're gonna need some better equipment, so I craft up a couple of lecterns and fletching tables and head over to the village where I borrow the books from the library. The first order of business is to employ a villager in the fletching trade, and over several trading resets I managed to pick up a nice sum of emeralds. I did also bring the lecterns for a reason, since I want mending, silk touch and unbreaking books. Now I was actually quite lucky and got mending almost immediately, so I bought a bunch of books and put the first on my well-worn elytra. I also managed to get the silk touch trade quite quickly and I buy a book, but now being borderline broke, I craft myself a diamond axe and enchant it and then chop down a tree for sticks. I trade myself to a few more emeralds, and with that done, I place the lectern a couple more times until I get the unbreaking free trade, and I of course buy some books. Now all these books aren't worth much without something to put them on, so it's time to mine some diamonds, and I head down into the deep caves and strip mine for just under 30 minutes, which results in me picking up a ton of diamonds and other goodies. And as you can see, I end up with about 42 diamonds in total, and all the goodies I got I gather in my diamond colored shulker box. Now I might have diamonds for the tools and the equipment that I need, but I'm still missing the bulk of the enchantments like protection and efficiency, so for this I decide to build an enderman farm, and to do that I'll need these resources, so let's go get them. I quickly take care of the stone blocks and slabs, and after that I craft the buckets that I need and fill the first 3 with water. I put the things in a shulker box along with a couple of torches, and after that craft a couple of shears so that I can get the necessary leaves. Now before I fly out and get some leaves, I smelt some smooth stone for the armor stand, which I craft shortly after, and then it's over to the jungle where I get all the bamboo necessary for the scaffolding, and then it's time to shear some trees. Now all that remains is a lava bucket, which I pick up at a later stage, and on the way to the stronghold I pick up some extra obsidian for a portal network. I fly to the stronghold, pick up a couple of books from the library, and set up a portal near the end entrance, which I enter, and while digging a tunnel between the stronghold and pyramid portals, I accidentally dig into a bastion, and since I like living, I trace back a bit, and eventually connect up the 2 portals. When I pop back into the stronghold portal, I find that the portals are not correctly linked and end up deep underground. I actually came across some diamonds down here, but it's so packed with mobs that I flee at the first chance I get. I eventually get the portal set up correctly and it's into the end, and let's build the farm. Farm's all done, and now what's supposed to happen is the sweeping damage of the sword hits the enderman next to the armor stand, but when I swing the first time, the armor stand goes flying into the void, which makes me panic, and since I haven't waterlogged all the leaves, the endermen start teleporting all around like maniacs, and I actually get pretty close to losing my world. The funny thing is that at this point it's yet to dawn on me that the leaves need to be waterlogged, so I try a second time and the endermen are right on me once again. But eventually I do figure it out. However, in the process, I've disenchanted my sweeping edge sword, which really is a must for a farm like this. So I need to get a new one, and at this point I just settle for getting it on a book from the villagers. However, that's easier said than done, because the village is out of villagers, so I do, as you usually do in this instance, I raid a nearby village for their food and give it to my own. Now I don't idly wait for the villager to be born and grow up, so in the meanwhile I get a bunch of emeralds and trade them for books that I'll need for my armor and tools. After a good while, the new villager is all grown up, and with the lectern placed a few times, the librarian decides to sell the sweeping edge book. So it's time to enchant, where I pick up a bunch of awesome enchantments for my tools and armor, which I combine with the books that I traded so many sticks to get. I'll need all the great pickaxes for the huge amount of digging to come, and in addition, I also create a wither sword, so it's time to head to the nether and pick up some wither skulls. So I pop through the portal, and since I can just fly around, I manage to locate a fortress quite easily and get to work. With the skulls picked up, I brew up some regeneration potions on a brewing stand that I've indefinitely borrowed from the village. Now with all my great equipment and my wither slaying sword, it's time to kill the wither. So I fly to the red sand fields that I dug up in the last episode, I place the soul sand and the 3 skulls, and the fight is on. I kite it while shooting it with arrows until it descends into the second phase. Where I swing with all I've got. And come out victorious, so I pick up the nether star, fly back to base, and craft up my beacon. Now the beacon isn't really worth that much without it being at its max power, especially in my case, since we want that haste 2 paired with efficiency 5 for maximum digging speed. Now I could go cave mining and pick up some iron, or I could set myself up better for the future, so let's do that. Let's build an iron farm. I decide that I want to build the farm under the pyramid, which gives me a good reason to come and visit this build more often. Now with that in mind, these are the resources that I need, and those aren't really a lot since it's a very simple and efficient iron farm. This means that the material gathering process isn't very long and we get on to the tricky part that comes in form of the 8 villagers that I'll need to transport over here. So I fly over to the village where I pick up 2 villagers who earlier refused to be employed and transport them back over to the pyramid by boat. Now after a while of giving the villagers food from nearby villages, I eventually managed to transport 8 villagers over to my pyramid by boat where they're currently chilling in the water. The villagers don't want to make things too easy for me and so they keep running away. So I'm actually making it quite far away, which makes it quite the hassle to get them back to the pyramid. Eventually I do succeed, and as you can see, by the time I've managed to make them stand in an orderly fashion outside the pyramid, they've all grown up. Now with that done, let's build the iron farm. In order to get the villagers in place, I drive them by boat one by one into the pyramid and get them to hop down the hole, and all that remains is 4 zombies and the farm will be up and running. Now it takes 2 nights to get all 4 zombies necessary, who I each give a nice unique head, and eventually I get them all in position, and the farm is, as we can see by the many iron golems spawning, quite operational. Eventually, after waiting quite a while, I get enough iron to create the blocks necessary for the haste 2 beacon. Now having gotten this far, I decide to visit the mansion right next to the jungle, since I want a totem so I can avoid dying. I do get into a couple of close encounters, and one which gets me a little spooked as the pillager was hiding right around the corner. However, when all is said and done, we get what we came for, so it's time to fly all the way back to spawn, where I set up my beacon. And it's time to prime the area before the massive dig can begin. During the initial small dig, I decide that I want more pickaxes to speed up the process and reduce the amount of times that I have to run to the end to repair. So over at the village, I get a villager to trade efficiency 5 books and pick up 3 of those, along with some silk touch on breaking and mending books, and make the pickaxes. Something that frequently happened is me breaking pickaxes while digging this massive hole, as when you calmly mine away, you tend to forget to keep an eye on the durability, so for the sake of authenticity, I'll quickly show you guys me getting some more diamonds, and I trust you guys to believe that I know how to trade sticks for emeralds and buy books from the villagers to put the pickaxes at the end farm. And showing it every time would ruin the pacing of the video, and with that out of the way, let's dig a hole. Now with a big hole dug, I still need to build a base net, and to do that I'm going to need a lot of resources. I'll both need a lot of dripstone and green stained glass, and for that reason also cactus. So the first order of business is to head into the desert to pick up a bunch of those. And after that I head towards my pyramid base, quickly stopping on the way through the nether to pick up some magma blocks. Now at the pyramid I empty all the chests for all the deep slate, tuff and quartz I can find, since I'll need a lot of that for the build. With that out of the way, it's time to find a dripstone cave, so I fly out and search far and wide for one. I eventually do find one, but at the same time I also discover a huge ancient city, which I take a quick peek into, but decide that that's an adventure for another time. Now back at the base, I set up a dripstone farm, as I'll need a lot more of it than I was able to find. And just as I finished up the farm, a creeper decided that it would be a good idea to blow up a chest with the items from the big excavation, which leaves me scrambling to put them back in the chests before they despawn. The cactus farm is up next, and since I wasn't really feeling setting up water streams, I just placed some cactus on some sand right next to the item stash. Now the base walls are going to be made out of a mixture of cobbled deep slate, tuff, mud and basalt, and as you can see by the size of the build, I'm going to need a ton of it, about 17,000 to be exact, and the amount I picked up from the pyramid won't even make a scratch in that. So I moved down the beacon so it's now under the base, and now let's mine the cobbled deep slate. While mining deep slate for 3 hours is a bit exhausting, it feels really rewarding to be able to go around and mine a ton of diamonds afterwards. And after I've picked up all of them, I end up with more than 77 diamond ores. Now there's still plenty more materials to get, so it's into the nether where I mine some of the basalt towers that connects the floor to the ceiling. And after that, it's over to the iron farm where I make 150 chains and lanterns, and then I head back to the nether where I mine a bunch of quartz that I will smelt into smooth quartz blocks later. With that out of the way, I head to the desert where I mine a ton of sand and sandstone for the glass roof and the walkway around the base. As I mentioned earlier, I'll need a ton of mud as well for the base walls, so I built a small and super efficient mud farm, which is invented by Mango. I must admit though that I was a bit surprised to see that you needed more than 13 stacks of bottles for it to work. However, with the farm done, I get to digging, and after using a bit more than one entire diamond shovel, I've got the mud that I needed. Now it's time for me to turn the raw materials into the forms that I need them in. So I start by smelting the basalt and thereby turning it into smooth basalt, and after that I gather some of my coal ores from the big dig, and I do have a lot of those. And then I build a tall pillar out of it, which is super satisfying to mine back down. With all the coal, I start smelting the sandstone and then the sand, and I get the smooth sandstone and glass that I'll need for the build. Now at this point I realize that the dripstone farm that I built is way too slow and will never have produced enough by the time that I need it, so I head back out to find some more. And after checking a bunch of huge caves and coming across the ancient city again, I managed to find one which has all the dripstone and all the dripstone blocks that I could need. Now with that checked off, all that's left to do is for me to smelt all the quartz into smooth quartz and then turn the cacti into green dye and finally create all the green glass that I'll need. So with that sorted, let's start building the base. Now while getting the last lava for the lake, a terrible incident happened, where a piglin caught me off guard, and as you can see on the screenshot, my totem got popped. Now this means that there's no safety net anymore, and with being relatively close to finishing all the dangerous parts of the base, I decide not to go hunt for a pillager tower in order to get the bad omen effect, but instead I just get it off a wandering band of pillagers if they decide to come knocking so that I can activate a raid. Fortunately, right as I'm about to build the middle walls of the base, they do come for a visit, and so I get the bad omen effect, and after some short preparations where I decide to bring my chest plate and a couple of potions, it's time to head to a village and I trigger the raid. I decide to make my stand from the top of a villager hut, and with the village's iron golem at the vanguard, we quickly dispose of the first few waves. Eventually, the iron golem has gone down, and as I tackle wave 5, the last pillager is nowhere to be found. After a while, my search has taken me far underground, where I eventually find the last pillager who drops the totem. But it's picked up by a zombie, and just like that, it's gone again. On my way up, things get a bit hectic again since the pillagers have planned an ambush and Vexes clipping in and out of blocks are hard to deal with. Eventually I do succeed in defeating the raid and have plenty of totems to show for it. Sadly, it seems that only one of the villagers managed to survive the onslaught, but there's blocks to be placed, so it's back to the base where I finish up the base walls. Now at this point the interior of the base is fully complete and all that remains is the roof, so I pick up all the glass and let's finish up the base.